So knowing that you're in a position to make that a reality is something to be grateful for. Besides that, like I look at pictures of my kids, right? Like right here. Like whenever I'm pissed, I look at I look at this beautiful little girl right here. So boom, happy again, right? Yeah. Or I'll think about everything that I have, my house, cars or whatever. Even though it's materialistic things, it's just being grateful knowing that I have it. And so what if you don't have that? Fuck it. You still got a bed. You still got you still got food. You still got a job. There's a lot of things to kind of be grateful for and be like, oh yeah. So this little bullshit or this little drama, it don't mean anything. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like that, fuck. So who cares if the appraisal went off? That's not my bad. I'm not gonna hold on to that and let that weigh on me, because you understand that the alternative is to let that linger into the rest of your day, and it's going to mess up your paper. Mm-hmm. So you have a choice to change kind of to adjust your momentum through various things. Mm-hmm. So music, gratitude, and things like that will really help. Yeah. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start off with any questions. We can go roundtable of anything that you believe is a challenge, whether it's the leads, whether it's operations, whether it's time management, whether it's the transitioning efforts of going from application to pitch, and then maybe they're ghosting you, or they're not giving you the commitment, or they want to shop you. And then from there, I'm going to give you kind of insight of what may work. And I think all of us probably may share the same challenges. Cool? All right. So, Alan, I know you had a question that you wanted to bring up. So first off, looking at your current month-to-date count, and then looking at the month-to-date count of everyone else on the team, the goal is obviously to get you, towards the top, right? Because I want you to win. So what are a couple of challenges that you think you're facing right now that are keeping you from doing that?
Well, I think like the main one for me, it was just like my own mentality, especially because I know like last week I think was when I lost that momentum, and obviously you had a extra day off for the weekend. I feel like I just didn't come in prepared enough mentally, but also I think for me, just in regards to like the leads and stuff like that, and I talked to Monique, got her advice on some things, because I was noticing that like my Credit Karma, like Ratetable leads were like, I was still at 20%, which isn't bad, but I was like right there at that bottom that Ray, wants. And so I was like, what's going on? Like Credit Karma, they see the rate, they see the fees. What you see is what you get. What am I doing wrong that like, they're inquiring and interested, and then after I get done with them, they're like, well, let me think about it.
Yeah.
So that was something that I was really struggling with, because I was like, Credit Karma should be bread and butter. If I talk to 6 Credit Karma leads, I should probably lock at least 3. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to figure out, what am I doing wrong there? And I think for me, it was just like lacking excitement and confidence, going over the Credit Karma and just explaining to it that it, like I was taking the exclusiveness out of it, like the campaign kind of promotion feeling out of it. And so I've been putting that back into it, and it's so far I've seen like this week's been totally different. I've locked like 5 in the last 3 days compared to like last week I had.
So it's just a question about momentum.
Yeah, right? I think it was momentum, and I think it was how I was approaching the special leads. I wasn't really making it sound very special. I think that was my issue.
Okay, yeah. So with Ratetable leads, I think if you had a chance to listen to like Sakati or let's say Kevin Garcia, and I'm sure Monique's doing it too, is when they interact with these leads, they don't necessarily change, right? It doesn't there's not like an enthusiasm meter that just kicks up like, hey, welcome, we love NerdWallet, or we love Ratetable, or Credit Karma. They treat it pretty much the same as any lead, because they don't want to oversell it, mm-hmm. and they don't want to sound too desperate, but in doing so, they don't oversell it. And I think that's a key thing is because sometimes when we're new, or when we kind of get nervous that we don't want to underserve, we overserve. Does that make sense? So now we talk about things that is irrelevant to the buyer, or they don't really care about, right? Mm-hmm. So coming from a consumer standpoint, when you engage with someone that you're about to do business with, there has to be still that kind of that connection, like that feeling, right? Where if they're giving you too much information, they don't really care, then you just didn't mesh well with that individual. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you got to pay attention to some of the things where if they're engaging and they're asking the questions. So in other words, no need to go back and like, hey, NAS's been around for over 20 years. We're privately held. We have over 300 branches, right? Unless it was warranted, unless it was actually needed. And you could put feelers out there too. Like, hey, have you ever worked with New American Funding before? And then come up with maybe 2 or 3 bullet points, and that's it. And then move them straight down the line. Because everyone's so used to instant gratification, where they just want to push a button and just get what they see. Does that make sense? So treat it as such, but don't feel the need to make it more complicated than it is, right? And I think that probably might be something that you experience because you're very social, right? You love to talk to people, you love to create the rapport. Same with you. You love to create the rapport, which are very strong suits in regards to sales. But you got to make sure that the person that you're giving it to even wants it. Yeah. Right. That
makes sense.
Otherwise, just take them right down the line, because the Ratetable lead we always refer to it as a layup because it is a layup. It's already sold. Now it's just a matter of the agent kind of guiding them towards how to secure it. But many agents have a problem with making the intro and they feel like they need to earn it, but it's already been earned.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Take more like of an assumptive close and just say like, let's get this locked
Correct,
in.
yeah. Like imagine you being on a car lot and someone came in and said, hey, I want this, 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 and this. There's no need to go walk the lot anymore.
Right.
That makes sense? So I think that will help with the conversion. And at the same time, you're gonna have one of those one-offs where they maybe filled out the engine wrong, or they're still wanting to shop you. And I think that's going to be, another challenge as we head in, because the market's dipping. And so we're going to get people like who locked and then they check Credit Karma every day and be like, hey, you guys are 0.25% less now. Now what do you do? Right?
Yeah.
So, there's things that you just got to be proactive about. Letting them know and say, okay, for the time being, just avoid having any of the credit pulls. We do have a float down policy that we honor. The float down policy works like this. At the time that the loan docks, right? If the market is improved by more than 0.25%, we'll honor that. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So what that does is it kind of plants the seed that they're okay and they don't need to babysit or stalk the website, because that's really their concern. Is what if it drops, right? That's the whole reason why they keep checking. Now, if it goes past that and you're in the process and they call you and they say, hey, Alan, I was just on Credit Karma. I got an email from them. It looks like the rates dropped. You have to address it in this way. Say, okay, you know what? I'm actually walking into a meeting, but no problem. I'm going to go and get that done for you and see what the costs will be. And then just get back to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because what happens is you're answering them, whereas most agents will look at it like, no, I'm sorry, you're already locked in. Now you're telling them no, and you're pushing them away, and that's what's going to make them want to shop with someone else. Does that make sense? But if you give yourself time to collect yourself and say, yeah, you know what, I saw that. I'm headed into a meeting right now. Let's do this. I'll get back to you at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, somewhere like a couple hours down the line, and I'm gonna get with my manager to see what that cost will be like. Okay, well, what that cost will be. And then it gives us time to analyze it to where we're not giving more of an exception. So if it goes, 4.25, I'm sorry, let's say it goes 3.25, we can tell them what that spread will be, right? So maybe you may not get the 954 LC, but that's just something that we can overcome at a later time, as opposed to us being under the pressure of, oh shit. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to handle anything like that, regardless if it's a Ratetable lead or not. You don't want to come in from that place, and that's probably like a default response to any type of fire that comes up, right? So even if it's not a Ratetable lead and that person gives you a call and says, hey, I just got a quote from Loan Depot or whatever. Say, hey, you know what? I'm walking to a meeting. Shoot me over a copy of the loan estimate. When I get back, I'll take that to my manager. I used to always play the good cop, bad cop with my manager all the time, even though I never really went through Ray. Does that make sense? To this day, I say, I'm gonna bring it straight to the vice president. I never bring him anything, but you bring this, you create the story so that they feel like you're going into an exception. Does that make sense? Right. So even if I knew that I can get, 1629 in lender credit, I'm gonna paint the story as if I can't get you any lender credit at this. But hey, guess what? If we do X, Y, and Z, I'll go to bat for you as long as I got your commitment and your documents, and I'll ask him to waive our lender fee. I already know we have it. Does that make sense? So it's a little bit stronger in the presentation and the belief system that the consumer gives you so that they're glued to you. The problem is though, is that most agents, even right now, we're probably guilty of it, is if you price a deal and you know that you can give, let's say again, 1629, very easy numbers, right? 1629 lender credit, you can give it. The problem is most agents just give it right away, right? Like, hey, I can get you no lender fee at this rate. Why not build it up, right? So talk about the rate sheet. Like today's current market, 3.75 actually costs you half a point. But you know what? We have a huge campaign going on in the Ventura County area right now. And I want to see if I can include you in on that bundle. If you can get me your documents, I'll ask my manager if we could waive the half point and even waive the lender fee. Now it's just like, oh shit, right? I want that. But the problem is we sometimes, because we're moving so fast, we're just like price, okay, pitch, price, pitch, right? It just, and that's fine, that's normal. It's just it's the creativity aspect of it where you control them emotionally that's going to keep them drawn to you. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Cool.
And then I had that question, because I haven't had this before. I had a guy where I was like, oh, he wants a home equity line of credit, yes man, until you get the credit. Mm-hmm. Man, I worked everything up, and he's actually a borrower of ours, and I got his mortgage statement, and he's at like a 4.625 or something like that, or 4.5 or something like that. And I was like, don't do the home equity line. Why don't you just do, I can get you at like a 3.625 cash out, and you're lowering your interest rate and taking out the money you need, and covering everything that you need. Like, this is exactly what you need, but it's getting you more savings. And he actually was like, I think I just want the home equity line. And I was like, what? Like, obviously, they say sometimes you can't argue with stupid, but it's like, I wonder if I did it wrong, or there wasn't enough like need, I guess, because he came to me saying like he's got medical bills, and I was like, I absolutely want to help you take care of that. Yep. Let's see what we could do. Like, it sounded like he had a need, but and like I think the home equity line's like over 5% plus it's an ARM. So I explained it to him, but I guess I wonder if there's anything in your opinion that could be.
So I think it's when you're dealing with a consumer that doesn't really understand our language, they don't want to make the wrong decision. And so when they come with a specific request, that's exactly what they expect to see. And so when it's presented to them, there's a difference between saying, hey, you know what, I have an idea and I want to get your feedback first, right? Versus, hey man, you shouldn't do an equity line. You should do this, this, and this. Then now you just kind of messed up their whole belief system or their pattern. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because you're telling them that they shouldn't do it. But they've been searching, so you're kind of saying, "Hey, you're dumb," in so many words, right?
Right.
So the easiest way to go about it is because we're gonna get leads like that, coming up, where they're applying for an equity line of credit, and then what we do is we try to see if we could flip them to a cash out refinance. So if they're already kind of in the aisle of just home equity lines of credit, they're not looking for a cash out refinance. They're looking for an equity line of credit. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So when you tell them and say, hey, you know what, I got an idea, I wanted to run it by you, there's a way to avoid a compounding interest, because an equity line of credit is like a credit card. It compounds interest per day, right? Not only that, but it's also adjustable, and the max rate, the cap rate's at 18%. So I had an idea and I want to run it by you, get your feedback. What if we can help you avoid that cap rate, put you on a fixed, help avoid compounding interest, and I'll show you how to improve your first mortgage as well. What do you think they're going to say? Yeah, absolutely. How do we do it? Versus me coming in and saying, yeah, you know what? I don't think you should do an equity line of credit. I think you should do this. Now they're kind of thrown off. Yeah. Right? Like, oh, I don't want to make the wrong decision. My wife told me go look for an equity line. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Heath?
I agree with like what Alan was saying too. Is for me, it's just more like confidence and just not slowing down during the sale and just assuming it, and just the way I build it up to that point too. The amount of like effort and my mood and emotions, like you said before, for me. But I was going through a tough week, and it's not an excuse, but it did throw me off quite a bit, and now I'm back on track. So
good.
Yeah.
Good. So that's gonna happen to us. I mean, even for us who's been doing this for a while, emotions is always gonna get the best of you. you're gonna have a deal fall out. You're gonna have a client like Alan where you're just like, dude, how do I convince you that, you know what I mean? Like, this makes the most sense. And that's just something that you just have to shake off. So there are certain practices that some agents do, whether it's music or just taking a walk around the building, to kind of get your mindset straight, right? And so how to change your state of mind is really get up and move, right? Because motion creates emotion. And so not only that, but you start to have fun with the origination game. Because at the end of the day, that one file, you're gonna have a choice. You're gonna let it dictate the rest of your day and your success, or that experience or that engagement, whatever's throwing you off and giving you that negative vibe. It's either going to trickle into the rest of your day, affecting all your other business, or you're gonna shake it off and say, you know what, it's all good. There's not just one house in this entire world, right? There's so many different homeowners. But it's easier to say it than to actually do it, because when you're in the heat of the passion or you're in the heat of the moment, it gets the best of you, right? So, the only thing I could really suggest is that the best way to find your momentum and get your confidence back is to clean your plate of any tedious tasks. And so what you don't want to do is originate when you're in that state of mind. You don't want to take on another call when you're in that state of mind. So until then, if you remove some of the tedious tasks on your calendar, it gives you this sense of completion and winning. So you're winning little small pieces of your day because you got that done, and you get a little bit more confidence that way. Does that make sense? Not only that, but then you can go into the rest of your day knowing that everything's handled. You just got open time for origination. But what about so the locks are there, right? You guys are getting locks. And then sometimes it doesn't turn into an origination, or even you will do the application, pitch the deal, and it doesn't turn into origination. Are you guys having any challenges that you think you want to cover in that aspect?
For me, I've been waiting sometimes to send disclosures after I lock, so that's been a reason why it hasn't subbed right away, because some of the borrowers, they didn't necessarily, or they wanted to see the loan estimate first before they move forward, basically.
Right.
So.
Right. And that's something that we all experience, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want to see it in writing before you give me any documentation.
Yeah. What I always send the CCW because it's something, and I kind of, your approach, the more they want, the more they have to give.
Right.
So yeah, I try to get e-signs right away, but obviously sometimes you can't because at least I haven't done the whole disclosure yourself, so I always use the disclosure specialist. But for me, what I've used is, you talked about creating that urgency of the reservation, because I had one guy that I locked and I was like, dude, you gotta sign these forms, and so I emailed him. I said, hey, if you don't sign by midnight, I can't stop this from unlocking. You're gonna lose your reservation. And because he wasn't responding to me, and then finally he emailed me and he's like, hey, I'll get them done, I'm just busy at work. And I said, not a problem, I just need you to sign them. And he signed them. So that's what I've used, is create the urgency. You're locked, because when people are locked, they're like, okay, I'm good, whatever.
Yeah. But I think also a deeper layer of that is, when you get a prospect who's more focused on seeing the numbers, you have to kind of take a couple steps back and really think about the conversation you're having.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, the conversations that are tailored around numbers, and all you're doing is talking about, we say things that we don't realize we're doing. So we're saying hey, I can lower your rate, I'm gonna get you the lowest rate, I'm gonna get you the lowest price. So they hear that. And we think, we sometimes forget we're even saying it. And so when they hear that, they naturally say, well, I wanna see it. That makes sense? So a lot of the conversations that I have, especially with some of the veterans or some of the top people on the team, it's not necessarily numbers driven. Really what it is it's gonna be based on the result that they're looking for. Right? And so is it possible to do an entire initial application without saying any rate? It is, right? Is it possible to do the entire conversation up to a point where you could do the credit pull and have enough information to price the deal to where you could pitch it without even discussing price or rate?
Yeah.
There is, right? And so I think that is probably step number one, is find out how you can position and kind of word and frame your conversation to where it's not about price or rate anymore, right? Because you have to put them in a state of belief that we are direct conduit to the source. So because of our size and our scale and our reach across the nation, our relationship with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA, and FHA is so strong that I can only give you what the market yields today. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So how we make our money is through the servicing. How we and because we're not a middleman and we provide all in-house services, we transfer the savings to you. Watch, I'll show you. Does that make sense? Now you're shifting the focus away from interest rate. Never in the conversation would be like, yeah, I'll show you how to get the lowest rate. Right now you're looking at about 3.25. What's your rate right now? Right? Then that's all about numbers. But in order to actually have someone invest time and energy into you, whether it's getting you the steps within 24 hours or making sure that they're present and alert at the time of you releasing the numbers and going over your pitch, is going to be based on how strong the leverage you were able to kind of get from that person. Does that make sense? So if I'm only talking about numbers, price, and rate, I don't really have leverage from them because I don't understand what that means to them. Got it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you can position yourself where no numbers, no fees, of course it's going to come up like, hey, what's your rate? Yeah, I'm going to actually show it to you. Let me just ask a few questions first and then deflect it, right? So, hey, what's your rate? Well, the current average market rate, I'm going to show you in a set of disclosures. But I need to make sure that I can even get that far first, because as a direct conduit to the source, the only thing I can put in front of you is what you qualify for today. Make sense? So I'm answering the question, but at the same time, I'm taking control back of the conversation. And then when you take control of the conversation, now you got to dig a little bit deeper and find out what makes them move. And if you say, yeah, I can get you 3.25, and then you pull the credit and you find out he's a 680 at a 90% LTV, then you're backtracking. You're stuck, right? And not only that, but now your psyche and your momentum and your confidence going into the pitch is going to be destroyed. Because all you know is that, damn, this guy wanted a 3.25 and I can't give him a 3.25. Instead, frame yourself and position yourself and say, this guy needs savings so he can wipe out credit card debt, not live check to check, have more than 1 month of living inside of his bank. And because he's the sole income in the household, it's all on him. So his alternative is to diminish his credit score, continue living check to check, never have more than 1 month of mortgage inside of his bank account. Or I could show him how to get to 12 months of living, over 780 FICO, no debt, and much more breathing room. Easier, better quality of life.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Carlos?
I mean, some of the similar things that they had mentioned in terms of momentum.
Yeah.
You know, I got sick, but
Yeah.
you know, but either way, just keeping my mindset where it needs to be, regardless. Because everyone around me, I'm sure they get sick. Everyone has the same thing. You know what I mean? Like those top producers, like stabilizing their mind regardless of their physical situation. You know what I mean? Just keeping that consistency and effort into every call. Like I try to keep myself, you know, dived in or like driven and focused, but sometimes I feel my attention kind of wavering, and I try to like make myself, you know, that's why I'll do the outbound calling or, you know, emails and kind of sift through, you know, my leads and who can I attack today, who seems like a viable resource to you know, get another sale. But keeping the mindset, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand.
So with regards to mindset and momentum, they go hand in hand, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's why there's a saying that the best time to make a sale is right after you make a sale, because the confidence is there, the momentum is already moving. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want to get Confucius on you or anything like that or sound like, you know, Tony Robbins, but there's a method where, you know, in order to change your state of mind and keep your momentum going and kind of like, because when your momentum is not there and your confidence is not there, it's because there's negativity, right? That something bad's happened, or you're like, fuck, I don't want to be at work right now, right? I'd rather be at home watching Netflix or something, right? I'm just fucking
Netflix, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but what I'm saying is your mind is kind of disconnected from where you're at right now. And so, you know, a method that you could try is to kind of take a step back and look at it from a third person looking in. And so, you know, with the team emails, what I'm always trying to do in the morning is try to give you, like today, like a few things to be excited about, right? Yesterday was 2 facts. Like it's certain things that you gotta really kind of be grateful for, like the current market, the fact that you're licensed to sell money, the fact that people are doing it and making it right now. And of course, your life doesn't evolve around money, but your life is hell of a lot easier when you have a lot of it. Does that make sense? So knowing that you're in a position to make that a reality is something to be grateful for. Besides that, like I look at pictures of my kids, right? Like right here. Like whenever I'm pissed, I look at I look at this beautiful little girl right here. So boom, happy again. Right? Yeah. Or I'll think about everything that I have, my house, cars or whatever. Even though it's materialistic things, it's just being grateful knowing that I have it. And so what if you don't have that? Fuck it. You still got a bed. You still got you still got food. You still got a job. There's a lot of things to kind of be grateful for and be like, oh yeah. So this little bullshit or this little drama, it don't mean anything. Does that make sense? Like that, so who cares if the appraisal went off? That's not my bad. I'm not gonna hold on to that and let that weigh on me, because you understand that the alternative is to let that linger into the rest of your day, and it's gonna mess up your paper. So you have a choice to change kind of to adjust your momentum through various things. So music, gratitude, and things like that will really help. But the small wins also. So back up from originating and just kind of look at the tedious things, button up something in the pipeline, check in, offer support. What also helps is saying something positive to somebody. You know what I mean? Like complimenting like KG, even though he doesn't deserve them. Compliment him. But we always do that because we always tease each other, right? We always make fun of each other. And sometimes, you just got to have that, otherwise you're gonna implode. Yeah.
I try to reach out and show them appreciation, because the guys do help me a lot around.
I
appreciate that. And I let them know. I know that sometimes to them, I think they may be just like, we got that. But
no, they love it. Yeah. They just won't ever tell you. But the scoreboard is something also to show you that it can be done. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, how the hell does Monique have, I think, like 25 elevations right now? Or Sam out in Plano. How do you have 33 elevated right now? Right? I reach out to Sam and be like, bro, killing it, man, out there in Plano. Like, what's your secret? And he'll be more than happy to tell you what his secret is. And then it just gives you a different perspective, because, another thing to help control your momentum is just make a slight adjustment and tweak, because you kind of get bored after doing the same thing over and over and over and over again.
It's like working out, you gotta switch it up.
Yeah.
Can't plateau. Yeah.
Exactly. Cool. Yeah. So any challenges you guys want to share?
I feel like I need to be more organized.
Okay.
I come in and I get on the phones, and then I start working on all the tedious stuff that needs to happen with my files. And then next thing I know, I'm on no ACD because I've got to work on this, and I can't get back on the phone, and it snowballs.
Yeah, so I completely understand. As many emails as I get and different things that pull at my attention all throughout the day, like Alan.
Chip told you about that.
Kind of just, everything pulling at you. And so that's why I let people walk onto my desk and they think I'm mad. I'm like, no, dude, I'm just focused, but I'm listening. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm just, that's just the way I kind of operate, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, are you busy? Are you on the phone? I'm like, no, dude, I'm not busy. The fuck? But the job is to roll it. So to answer your question, I think one thing that will really help you is just understanding that, number one is, NAF tries its best to uplift a lot of the admin tasks from sales, because they need our license to generate more revenue. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They can't necessarily throw an LOA or a loan processor on the phone. We're the ones that's licensed. And so with that being said, NAF has all these little kind of departments, right? So everything from let's say suspensions or what have you, there's a support system in place. So there's a PA that can assist you, there's Randy that can assist you. Even if it's a loan processor hitting you up with these documents, there's ways to handle it, but you have to take a step back and identify the priority of it, right? So in other words, if it's 10 a.m. and a loan processor hits me up and says, hey, I need this, this, and this, then how do I prioritize that? Number one is I look at how many days of the lock, right? I also look at their time zone, and I know that no matter what I do right now at 10 a.m., it's probably not gonna be looked at or handled till later on in the day anyway. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. So then I just make a mark on my calendar and then I color code it. So if it's red, it's urgent. If it's green, then it's a pitch, but everyone will have their own system. But it's just a matter of filtering all the data comes your way and then prioritizing it. So if it could be delegated, delegate it, right? So if a PA is hitting you up and say, hey, we're missing this, this, and this, naturally we want to get on the phone, stalk the borrower and say, hey, I need this, I need this, I need this. Instead, just reply back and say, hey, can you loop me in on the email that you sent to the borrower, right? And so when you're CC'd, then you forward it to the borrower again and say, thank you very much in advance for your urgency. And then hop in the BV file later on, hit them with a text and a voicemail. And it's done.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But it's not pulling you away from the most valuable time, which is the call block. It is very hard to juggle call block. I can understand. I'm always kind of pounding on the team, like, hey, there's not a more important time than to hoard leads, right? The problem lies in, though, is when someone takes a lead, and let's say it's 10 o'clock and your call block goes to 12. You take a lead, but then you're the one that sets the appointment to give them a call back in 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes no sense, because now you have to pull yourself off and then structure that deal. Not only that, but in 30 minutes, probably the other decision maker isn't even present, right? And not only that, but that person's probably in their cubicle just like we are, with all kinds of distractions, and they're in a rush. So there's no point in action. But sometimes how we justify it is we say, we got to get out of this way because I got 9 other things to do after this call block. Make sense? Yeah. So it's really just prioritizing and just understanding the resources of support that you have, which is going to leak into knowing how to how can I put it? How to befriend these certain roles, right? So you'll have one LO that talks to their LOA like they're gophers, like they're, you know what I mean? Like they have authority because they're an assistant, and they'll talk to them that way, right? Like just very short sentence, like, hey, can you get this? Who are you, bro? Right? Talk to that person like a human. And what happens is you kind of create this bond where they'll work harder for you because they recognize your name. Like, oh, this is a cool person.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And then like give them shout outs, once in a while, like CC Randy and say, what's the LOA's name?
Raymond.
Yeah, so Raymond, awesome job on this file, Raymond. You're always killing it. Thank you so much. I'm so excited for anytime I'm connected, when alone with you. And what that does is it kind of lifts them up. But the next time it goes around, you can now ask Raymond, especially if you're busy, hey bro, do you mind giving him a call? And then just CC me on the email out to the borrower. He just now took about 30 minutes of complicated, tedious work away from you.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Same thing happens not only with LOAs, but loan processors and everyone that's connected to your file. You have to know their names. Yeah. Because you're going to see them more and more.
Yeah, and I like from a meeting that you did a while ago about like how to approach the processor. I've been using that, and like I feel like all the processors like love me because I do like, hey, like I'm about to call this borrower, just a weekly update, but I wanted to make sure, is there anything you need that can help, get this out of your hands quicker?
My wife's a processor. She was my processor, so I know I got that shit on lock. I know how to word things and get my way, But it really they call it intelligent, social IQ, social intelligence, right? It's just understanding that you need that person to do something, so you're likelier to get them to do it if you come at them correctly, right? So the only reason why, and what he's talking about is whenever I ask for an update from a processor, is my way of getting them to respond fast and pulling the file to the front of the line is I'll say, like, hey, Latoya, I got a call at 12 o'clock with this borrower. Is there anything I could fetch for you to help get this off your desk? I use the word fetch on purpose because it makes them feel like they have authority. Make sense? Also, it helps them get it off their desk. So they're going to bring it to the front of the line and say, yeah, can you get this? You see, most loan officers, they'll approach a loan processor and say, what's the status? You think the processor is going to be like, fuck, I don't know, right? Yeah. And just kind of ignore the email. Because the processors got even more of a workload than we do, right? Their pipelines are 2-3 times our amount. You see what I'm saying? And you got to find a way to kind of, cut to the front of the line. So the best way to cut to the front of the line is, number one, is keep your name, your brand, essentially, in good taste with that processor, with all the processors. Because your file doesn't hit the underwriter, it doesn't even go to docs without your processor. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So I'll never make an enemy out of a processor because I understand how processors think, and they'll, just to be mischievous, not touch your shit.
Yeah.
right?
You want to make them feel like it's a team.
Exactly.
That's what I've tried to do, and I think a lot of processors.
Yeah, they'll work harder.
They've
for you,
even said
for
it.
sure.
You know, I'll thank them, and they'll be like, "Great, it was a great teamwork." So then I know, like, okay, they obviously think teamwork. So
Yeah.
I did my job.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what about the connection from, taking in the inbound leads to getting to a pitch? What are some challenges that you think that they're not buying into you right now? Anyone can come up with some.
I'm gonna go like non-Ratetable, because obviously Ratetable, they already pretty much have it,
Yeah.
So like for me, I've kind of been doing a couple things. Like if it's not a Ratetable, I'll see like, well, what would the rate be on a Ratetable, and like not take the points, obviously. So I'll like put in the points, maybe give a little exception.
When do you do that?
After I've done everything. Like
After you take the application?
I'm a 2-call. I don't do like a 1-call.
Okay.
Not yet, anyway. But so I'll hey, when are you available? Like to speak. Like if I have any questions, I want to make sure I can reach out to you. Oh, like I have meetings here, but I'm here. Okay, perfect. I'll try to see if I can get it ready by whatever, and then I'll work it up when I have the time. And then that's when I go like, let's just say 4% is par, but I'm like 4%, they're at like a 4.25, they're probably not gonna jump on that, see what buying down a little bit would be. And
So does everyone kind of agree with that? That's how we'll usually structure your deal, is you look at it based on the rate that you think that they'll buy? You guys?
Well, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I found is that, when you're structuring a deal, you can't determine the value of $20 to them. Right? Because the value of $20 to us in California is shit compared to someone who's in Podunk, Idaho. That's a lot of money to them. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you have to really kind of look at it from their point of view, but disengage from the rate, right? Because the way, at the end of the day, the way you want to sell them is you want to prepare them to redo business again in 6 to 12 months. That's the secret unlock to get yourself to 15 plus fundings per month. Because when that time comes, whether it's 3 months or 6 months from now, more of your business is going to be from past redo business. Got it?
Right.
Because if you're trying to spin the wheel and generate new business every single month, you're going to cap yourself out. But also you're leaving a lot of money on the table by not remembering to pick them back up. So in other words, if you're looking at the lowest rate on every single deal, you're taking away the opportunity of working with them again, because the likelihood of them, of you improving the rate is going to be very marginal. It's going to be very small. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's not a matter of the rate. It's not a matter of, hey, will they buy 4.25? It's a matter of like, hey, why do they need the 4% versus 4.25? I understand that mainstream media will say that 4.25 is not a good rate, but it's all on how you present it. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you're going through the loan application and then you set up you transition to your pitch call, because we're all 2-call closers, I would assume, and you're doing it in a way where, hey, I'll give you a call back with a couple options, just change the verbiage, right? Say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go and prepare your disclosures. I'll give you a call when they're ready, or if I have any questions. Otherwise, you'll receive an email to let you know that they're ready for review. So it's non-threatening, right? And that's why I use the, when will you be at home to give consent to receive the disclosures? And so that should be technically your pitch time, if not a half hour before, because usually it's about a half-hour commute home, and then you can conference them in. You see what I'm saying? So you can conference the parties in. But when it gets down to the pitch, you don't talk interest rate literally until after they bought into the result. That's key. Because a lot of LOs who have a little bit lower of a conversion or not, so like let's say out of 10, they can only flip and lock 2 or 3, which is technically good standards is 30% clip, like, like, hey, that's average or whatever. No, you want to get it to a point where you're like at 7 or 8. So the more people you talk to, the more efficiency you have. So you're not doing as much work. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? What creates the lack of confidence and momentum is because you're reaching more defeat than you are success.
Yeah.
You get it? And the reason why you're reaching more defeat than success is simply because of the way you're relaying the information. So instead of relaying the information saying, hey, Alan, I got option number 1, 4.25, no closing costs, and the monthly payment is this, right? Because that's how usually some pitches will start. Instead, you have to sell them on the result first and say, hey, Alan, when we talked earlier, you had mentioned it was important for you to create some savings so you can use that savings to replenish your bank account or to help pay for your kid's college fund. You have to prime them. So so in other words, you get them to buy in on the result first, right? Instead of saying, hey, I got option one, because if you start off with that and they don't agree with the rate, they don't care about the rest of the context of your message.
Right.
Get it? So, but if you start off with, hey, you know what, I noticed it was important, you had mentioned it was important to do this, this, and this, now you've got them engaged because you're speaking their language. So even if they're at 3.5 and I sold them 4.25, I know I can do it because they already want that result. Now it's just a matter of saying, okay, in order to get the result, you got to go through here. And through here, what I'm talking about is you got to go 4.25 after 6 months of payments on time. We have this courtesy service where I check in automatically, and I'm going to let you know that we can provide improved in better terms. Well, why would we have improved terms? Well, your FICO is going to be better. You're not going to have that much debt. Your equity is going to grow. You see what I'm saying? So at that time, then I could show you how to improve the term and maybe even shorten it so I can help you save a ton. So now it's easier for them to accept the higher rate because they don't think that they're going to be in it for the life of the loan, which a lot of consumers always believe. Like, this is the last time I'm going to refinance. No, it's not.
Yeah.
You're going to refi again probably in another 6 to 12 months. You see what I'm saying? As long as there's a plan and it makes sense and it's congruent to what the result they want, they'll accept it as long as you have confidence in it.